Welcome to today's Explainer. Look, we're diving straight into a massive, central paradox that is absolutely keeping operations leaders up at night right now, and it's this. Why do accidents keep happening, even when the paperwork is literally perfect? We have spent decades, perfecting standard operating procedures and rolling out fancy digital work instructions, but human error? It's still the number one root cause for incidents across manufacturing, healthcare, energy, you name it. So, why is that?
Okay, let's dive right into this. If you ask any operations leader how many checklists govern their floor, the answer is almost always, way too many to count. But ask them when a step was last skipped because someone was under pressure? Yeah, that confident tone disappears pretty fast. Here's the thing, if perfect paperwork is still giving us near misses, the problem was never the paperwork. A checklist is just a record of intent. It is absolutely not the actual mechanism that prevents a human error in the moment.
I want you to really think about this for a second. If the paperwork is perfect, why do near misses keep climbing? It's wildly frustrating for anyone in operations or quality control. But the hard truth we have to face is that the actual mechanism preventing an error is a human decision. And that decision is made under real, intense constraints of time and attention. Simply put, no laminated card has ever, in the history of operations, made a safe decision for a tired operator working a line at 3 a.m. So, here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, compliance friction. 2, cognitive load science. 3, psychological safety. 4, rewiring habits. And 5, future-proofing integrity. We're going to move from identifying the invisible enemies on your shop floor to building a truly resilient, fatigue-proof culture.
All right, Section 1, compliance friction and the hidden cost of control.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive gap it shows. In our endless pursuit of safety, we naturally tend to add more rules, right? But this creates what we call compliance friction. It's this cumulative mental drag that happens when procedures multiply way faster than an operator's capacity to actually absorb them. You end up with a huge disconnect between work as imagined, the procedure manual's pristine, ideal sequence, and work as done, the messy, improvised, experience-based reality of the shop floor. And let's be clear, frontline teams aren't abandoning procedures because they're careless. They abandon them because the system literally forces workarounds just to hit their production targets.
And this friction, it breeds 3 very recognizable, honestly dangerous patterns. First up, checklist fatigue. This is where workers just retroactively tick boxes at the end of a shift instead of verifying things in real time. Second is malicious compliance. This is technically following the rules to the exact letter even when it produces a bad outcome, usually as a sort of quiet protest. And third, shadow procedures. Those informal, tribal knowledge shortcuts passed from peer to peer. The crazy paradox here is that as our documentation gets better, organizations actually lose visibility into the real, under-pressure decisions happening on the floor.
Moving right along to Section 2, the science of cognitive load and decision fatigue.
To really grasp why this friction is so destructive, we have to look at human physiology. Checklists might perfectly encode what we want someone to do, but they totally ignore the mental bandwidth required to actually do it. As the quote says, beneath every skipped step lies a decision nobody remembers making. When a step gets skipped, the operator didn't maliciously choose to bypass a control. No, their finite mental budget was simply spent, literally hours before the incident even occurred.
We are constantly battling cognitive load and decision fatigue on the floor. Human working memory is a super narrow channel. A dense checklist creates this extraneous load that actively competes for the exact same brainpower needed to do the job safely. Honestly, think about how impossible a complex task feels before your first cup of coffee, right? Now add decision fatigue to that. By the 100th verification of a 12-hour shift, the mental investment just isn't there anymore. It can't be.
Which leads us to a pretty blunt palate cleanser. Not all controls are equal under fatigue. They just aren't. The controls that matter the absolute most must demand the absolute least cognitive effort to pull off. We have to rely on smart design, smart defaults, and physical constraints. We cannot just sit back and hope operators have enough willpower left at the end of a long day.
And this brilliantly illustrates why timing is everything. Error rates are not random. They cluster very predictably. They spike at shift changes, during that dreaded post-lunch food coma, and especially in the final hours of extended shifts. This proves, without a doubt, that timing and fatigue are massive risk variables. Willpower alone cannot overcome physiology. Asking tired people to simply try harder, that's not a safety strategy.
Which brings us to Section 3, Psychological Safety as an Operational Shield.
So how on earth do we fix this? Well, psychological safety is not about having some relaxed, easygoing workplace. It is a robust operational shield. Traditional policing focuses on whether a record exists and, who to blame when it fails. But true safety treats audits as diagnostic conversations. It's about asking operators, hey, what makes this procedure so hard to follow? It treats near misses as free lessons. Think about aviation's crew resource management or the manufacturing end-on cord. Anyone, and I mean anyone, can halt production the second something looks off, zero fear of retaliation.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds. Rewiring habits through behavioral quality.
We have got to step away from policing compliance after the fact and actually engineer safe behaviors directly into the daily workflow. Behavior change relies on the classic habit loop, right? Cue, routine, reward. Traditional programs constantly fail because they only jump in at the routine stage. They just add more rules and more friction to the action itself. Instead, we need to work upstream to fix the cue, so the safe behavior is just naturally triggered before the action even starts.
So what does working upstream actually look like on the floor? It means concrete shifts, things like cue redesign, literally putting verifications at natural physical pauses in the work. It means micro-reinforcements, where supervisors praise a good catch in the moment, not just bringing it up 6 months later at an annual review. It's pure accountability huddles where workers narrate risks out loud to each other. And crucially, it's friction removal. Think poka-yoke-style error-proofing, where you redesign the environment so that the safe, correct action is quite literally the path of least physical and cognitive resistance.
Finally, Section 5, Future-proofing integrity against human fatigue.
Look, the top organizations out there, they aren't trying to eliminate human fatigue anymore. They are treating human physiology as a permanent constraint that they have to expertly design around. A genuinely fatigue-resilient culture features adaptive, load-aware processes. So, instead of static, rigid checklists, procedures will actually flex based on high fatigue windows. They'll simplify late at night and maybe tighten up when cognitive bandwidth is higher. We are also going to see ethically deployed fatigue signals like wearables used to prompt proactive rest, absolutely not for surveillance. And all of this is built on trust as the durable infrastructure.
So, the crucial point is this. The future of this industry is abundantly clear. The next generation of quality systems will not be measured by how many procedures exist or how perfectly some documentation was filled out. No way. It will be measured by how quickly a frontline worker feels safe enough to say, right in the moment, hey, this does not feel right, and by how fast the organization is actually built to listen to them. Reducing human error at scale absolutely demands that we respect cognitive limits and engineer habits that hold up when the pressure is on.
So I'm going to leave you with this one final provocative question. Is your organization actually built to listen when a worker says, this does not feel right? We have to transform our static, dusty checklists into living, listening behavioral systems that support the actual human beings doing the work. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep questioning the process, and I'll see you next time.